Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So basically now we are just going to learn about one function and that function is super. So this super function basically we have this in the object-oriented programming language which we are studying in the Python programming. Right? Now let me just quickly let you know first that what actually this means. Right? So here I have just written something regarding the super function as well. So let's quickly read out that thing and then after that we'll be seeing the practical. Right? So here I have written that init is the first function which is called when instance is created. This thing we all know, right? That init is the first function which is basically called whenever we just create the instance of the class, right? After that, what actually super is? So super is a built-in function which refers to the proxy of object which helps to refer the super class. So basically super is a type of a built-in function which refers to the proxy means the copy, okay, which refers to the proxy of the object which basically help us to refer to the super class, right? So basically now I'm just writing the program and from that program it will be more clear to you that what actually I'm just trying to say, right? So just let me quickly go on to the next line here, fine. So now what I'll be just doing is that I'll be starting making some class. Right. So I would just write class and here I would just pass the class name that is 1. Okay. Inside this I would just make that init function which I was just talking about. Def underscore and init underscore and here the self is passed, comma, and then the name is also being passed here. Right. Come on to the next line here and I would just want to add something into my print function. Let's say that is I just want to add here 1 underscore underscore init underscore underscore, okay, and okay, I would just put one comma and add one name also here because name is one of the parameters that actually I have passed inside my init function, right? So I just need to add this thing here. That is done. Now come on to the next line here, basically onto the next line. Now basically here what I'll be doing is that I'm making my another class. Let's say that class is 3, the name for that class is 3. Okay, I would just put the colon here, come on to the next line, make that same function, that is basically def underscore underscore init. Okay, that is init again underscore underscore and then the self will automatically be passed. Now let's say here also I just pass out the same parameter and that is name here. Okay, I just pass out the same parameter which is name. Then again I would just print out the statement here and that statement is I would just print here that 3 underscore underscore init underscore underscore. This is like something which I'm printing inside the print statement. You can just change these statements also according to your wish. Okay, again put a comma and here I would just again write that name parameter which I had passed inside my class 3. Now just have a look that I'll be making my third class here. Now that third class is 2 and in this class basically I'll be performing the multiple inheritance. Now you remember that we had already studied about the multiple inheritance in the previous videos, right? We had seen about that what is multiple inheritance and how we just write the program for the multiple inheritance, correct? So I'll be just using that same thing here. So let's say inside my 2 class, I will be inheriting my class that is 3 and even my 1 class also. 3 and 1. So these two are the classes which I have inherited inside my 2 class. Now this means that whatever the properties, whatever the functions are we are having inside the class 3 and class 1, all of them will now be also be accessed with the help of the class 2 also. So class 2 will also be having all the properties and all the functions which are there in the class 1 and class 3. Okay, I would again use my def here, okay, def underscore underscore init underscore underscore and then the self. Now basically I would just not pass any parameter inside my function. Right, here I would just add on my print statement and that is I would just write here print and here I would just be adding to underscore underscore init and again that same thing. Right, now here basically I'll be using out my super function and that is like this. So simply we just write super here, okay, we just simply write super and then pass on the brackets. I would just write dot underscore underscore init and this is the way how we access it. And inside this basically what I'm just doing is that I would be passing the name, passing the value for the variable which I had declared inside my init functions. So I had taken the name as a parameter, right? So I'm just passing some value, some string to that name parameter inside my super function, right? So let's say that name here, I'm just adding my own name, that is Shambhavi, right? Come on to the next line here, and that is done. So now I would be just making the object for my class 2. Okay, we just only need to make the object for the 2 class because I had already told this thing in the multiple inheritance, right? I had already discussed that thing in that case. So t is equal to, and I would just write here as 2, right? Now basically if I just run my program now, okay, because already print statements are already added inside my init function, so I just need not to print anything downside now. Now look at the answer that I am getting here. So firstly, the init function of my 2 classes running, and that is resulting me the output as 2 underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Now why it is running? Because whenever we just like try to do inheritance and make the object, so that object is that the class is run first, right? So 2. Now after that basically I am getting here as 3 underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and then here I am just getting as Shambhavi. So inside my 2 class, I have inherited 2 classes, 3 and 1. So because of this, why actually I have added this 3 class firstly and then the 1 class. So whatever the class I have inherited first, that will be executed here, not the class which I have like inherited in the second case. No, not that one. Remember this thing here, that the class which I have inherited here for the first, that would be exist here. So in that case, I'm just getting 3 underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and after that inside that basically I had even passed the name as a parameter. So as that thing I'm just getting here the name, and that is Shambhavi. So for that I had used out the super function here, this super right. Okay, now I would just come down here. If I just change out the order of this thing, now if I just make this 3 in this this 1 in the starting and then 3 at the last. Okay, and now if I just run out my program here, so now I have a look that basically first I am getting 2. Let me come down. First I am getting 2, and after that now I'm not getting 3. Instead of that 3 I am getting 1. Why? Because I have inherited this 1 at the first position than the second position. So in the second I have inherited 3, and in the first position I have inherited the 1. Right, this is clear. I hope this is clear to each and every one of you. Now basically we had one more thing here, and now if we just want to see that what is the basically order of executing of my classes, what is the order that basically here it is following. So for that basically we have a function, and that is, I would just add it here. So inside the print statement I would write 2. Okay, 2 dot, and that is underscore underscore MRO underscore underscore. So this MRO is actually used for finding out the order of the execution of my classes. Now it means that what is the order for my classes execution, like which class will be executed first, after that which one, after that which one. So this underscore underscore MRO tells me this thing. Let me quickly run out my program here and show you the same thing. Let me increase the size here. Okay, so see, firstly it is giving me that the class main under dot 2. So it is saying me that the 2 class will be executed first, after that 1 class, and after that the 3 class. Now why it is basically giving me that order? Because at last firstly here I have entered my 2 class, so that would be executed for the first. After that I have inherited my 1 class at the first position, and then I have inherited my 3 class. So this is the reason that why it is giving me that firstly 2 will be executed, after that 1, and after that 3. If I just change out this order, and if I just make it 2, 3 at the starting and 1 at the second position. Now if you just take out the MRO order, now basically it will be giving me that first 2 will be executed, after that 3 will be executed, and then 1 would be executed. Because here in the where I have just performed my inheritance for my multiple inheritance where I have done, so in that case I had just given the order that basically 3 I have given it first and 1 is given first. So basically all the things here depend on the order which you are giving. The class which you are inheriting first will be executed first, and the class which you are inheriting secondly, that will be executed secondly. right? So I hope you just got the idea about the superclass and even as the MRO function. Let me quickly repeat out the definition which I told you in the starting. So that was super is a built-in function which refers to the proxy of object which helps us to prefer the superclass, right? So super is basically a built-in function. It is a type of a built-in function which refers to the copy of the object and which basically help us to refer to the superclass. Right, so I hope you have just got a clear idea regarding this superclass and super function, right? That what are abstract methods and what is abstract class in Python programming language under the topic of object-oriented programming. Right, so today I'm just going to give you the whole information about these two topics which we have, which is abstract method and abstract class. So before jumping on towards the program, what I had just done here is that I have some definitions for you regarding the abstract method and abstract class. Okay. Now, just read out the definitions with me, which I have just like listed here for you. So that is a class is called an abstract class if it contains one or more abstract methods. Okay. So the very first definition for abstract class is that a class is actually called an abstract class if it contains one or more abstract methods. Now, it comes that what is actually abstract method? What do we just mean from this term, right? So, an abstract method is a method that is declared but contains no implementation. Now, abstract method is it is a basically kind of method that we declare, right? That is declared. That is absolutely right. But it basically contains no implementation into it, right? Which is this is actually called an abstract method, right? After that, abstract classes may not be instantiated and its abstract methods must be implemented by its subclasses. For now, just leave out this thing. Okay, for now, let's remove this thing for now. Okay, let's not go into that thing for now. Okay, you have a proper idea that what is actually an abstract class and what is actually an abstract method, right? That two things I have just listed here. Moving towards the next thing that we have for the abstract class is that abstract class that Python comes with a module which provides the base for defining abstract base class, that is ABC. ABC is one of the modules which basically helps us to define the abstract base class. Okay, a concrete class which is a subclass of such abstract base class that implements the abstract base by overriding its abstract methods. For now, just leave this that what is actually the concrete class and all that. For now, just leave that. Okay, just only remember these three things for now, that what is abstract class? It is a class. A class is called an abstract class basically if it contains one or more abstract methods. After that, the question comes, what is abstract methods? So abstract method is a method that is declared but contains no implementation. And the third thing, that Python comes with a module which provides the base for defining abstract base classes, that is ABC, and that module name is ABC. Right, now let's do one thing. Let's quickly jump on the program, and with that program itself I would let you know the rest of the concrete class and whatever the things were left, right? So as I mentioned that what we need to do is that we need to import something, right? We need to just import one module, and with that module basically abstract class and abstract method comes. So the very first thing is that from that particular module, that is ABC. ABC actually means the abstract base class. Okay, from ABC, import this capital ABC. This capital ABC is actually the abstract base class. Don't take this small ABC as that. Small ABC is only one of the module that comes here. And this capital ABC actually refers to the abstract base class. Right, so I'm just importing this abstract base class, and even I'm just importing one more method, and that is abstract base method. Abstract method, okay, ABSTRACT, abstract method, right? So these are the two things that I am importing here. First one is the ABC, that is abstract base class, and second one is basically abstract method, right? Coming to the next line. Now, I would be defining a class, and in that basically I'll be using my abstract base class and all that things, and making the method and all that things we'll be doing here, right? Now, basically here I would be making a class. Let's say that class I'm just making as mother. Let's say mother is one of the class that I am making here, right? Putting the brackets here, after this I would be adding inside the bracket as ABC. Now this ABC, I mentioned that it actually refers to my abstract base class. Let me just write on that thing also so that you do not forget this, that what actually I'm just writing again ABC. So capital A is basically abstract. Okay, capital B is base, and capital C is class. Okay, so I have just inherited that abstract base class into this class, that is mother. Coming on to the next line. What is the procedure for defining the abstract method? It's not like that we are just writing anything and abstract method is being defined. No, for each and everything we have a similar procedure. So as we had seen in the class method and even we had seen in the static method, that what we do, we just put the at the rate sign, and after that at the rate sign we just write the particular name of the method that we are looking for. Right, so the procedure is actually same for the abstract method as well. I would put the at the rate sign. Okay, and after this at the rate sign, I would just use the abstract method. And this is how actually we define an abstract method in Python programming language. Right, this is done. I would just put one comment here, that is it is basically defining of. Okay, it is defining. I would just write that defining. Hope you understand that. Right. So I would just make one another class, another function inside this abstract method. So that is one, okay? And inside the bracket cell will automatically be passed because we are defining this inside the function. Now, previously you had seen that in the class method CLS was automatically passed, but for the abstract method we do not have something like this. Only self will be passed because we are defining the function inside a class, okay? That is done. Now here I would not be writing anything, but why I would not be writing anything? So read out the definition once again, which I have mentioned here, that an abstract method is a method that is declared but contains no implementation. Now this abstract method will actually contain no implementation in it. Okay, that is done. Right, I would just even give the tab space here. I would make another function. Let me just leave one line first of all. Now my another function is, let's say, div, and in the bracket it is 2. I have passed a self here. Now what is this line actually which I had made here? I've just write a print statement, and here I'd be just writing as concrete class. Now above I was just talking about the concrete class, right? So just again let me go for that particular place and read out the definition for concrete class. So a concrete class, which is a subclass of such abstract base class. Okay, yeah, you are able to see this thing, right? That it is a subclass of abstract base class. This is my abstract base class ABC. It is subclass, right? That implements the abstract base by overriding its abstract method. So basically it is implemented by the abstract base, and that will be by overriding the abstract method which we had made here. Okay, come on to the downside. Now this concrete class has been defined here. Now what I would just do is that I would just come out here. I would just define another class. So that is class, and let's say I have a class that is daughter. Okay, and in the bracket, okay, just 1 second, I'm so sorry for that. And in the bracket I'll be inheriting my mother class. I hope I should increase the font size. Yeah, now it's okay. So inside that daughter class, I have inherited my mother class. So it means whatever the properties, whatever the functions, whatever the methods I was having in my mother class, that all have come into my daughter class as well. So I can just access these things with the help of my daughter class object. Right? This is the meaning which I can just say from here. This is single inheritance, right? We had already discussed this thing in the previous videos. Correct? Fine. So here we had just, I have inherited my mother class into my daughter class, and I just want to define a function that is diff1. Okay, in the bracket cells the cell will automatically be passed, and into my print statement print, into my print statement I would be adding here as abstract, and here I'll be adding here as class. Right, so inside my print statement I just simply added abstract class, and inside my daughter function, daughter class which we had made, I had made a function that is 1. Okay, into this self is automatically passed because I am defining the function inside my class. That is done here. Now next thing that basically comes here is that I need to make an object for my class, and from that object I just need to access the 1 and 2 function which I had made in my daughter as well as my mother class. So let's say my object is obj. So obj is the object that I had made for my daughter class. So I would just write here as daughter and then the bracket. right? So this is how actually we just make an object for any class, right? Now I would be okay, my object name is obj. Now with the object which I have made for my daughter class, okay, with the help of that object I would try to access my 1 and 2 functions which I am having here, right? So first of all I would just write here as 1, obj1. Now my second step that comes here is that obj dot 2, right, and the bracket. If I now try to run this program here, see what answer I am getting. I am getting the answers that are abstract class and base class. So first I have called my 1 function, so that is why I am just getting this abstract class for the first, okay. And at the second position, and this just 1 second, let me show you that thing here. After 1 I have called my 2. So in my, sorry, in my 2 function, what I was having concrete class. So that concrete class has been called here, and I'm just getting the answer as concrete class, right? These two are the things which I'm getting here. Let me just quickly close out this output for now. And what I would just do, I would just replace the things. I would just write here 2, okay, sorry, I will just write this 2 for the first, and after that I would just write this 1 here, okay, first 2 and then after that 1, and I would just try to run this program here. Now you can just have a look that firstly I'm just getting my concrete class, after that I'm just getting my abstract class, because I have called my 2 function first and then my 1 function, right? So let me just go above once again and read out the definitions for you, that whatever the definitions we had read, are these properly applicable to the programs that we had made here, right? So a class is an abstract class if it contains one or more abstract methods. That thing is true, right? And what is an abstract method? It is a method that is declared but contains no implementation. That I have shown you, right? Then concrete class. So a concrete class, which is subclass of such abstract base class that implements the abstract base by overriding the abstract methods, right? And at last, Python comes with a module which provides the base for defining abstract base classes, and that module name is ABC, right? So I hope that you have got a fair idea regarding abstract class and abstract method, that what are these regarding the sorry, and including the concrete class as well, with the help of definitions and even with the help of the example, right? So discuss about 2 more methods. The first one is defined as the setter method, and the second one is the getter. So these two are setter and getter methods. Even we just call them as accessor and mutator also. These are the two another names for these methods. So we are going to see that what are these methods actually, and how to write how to code these methods, and what are the things that we have into these methods, right? So the method defined within a class can either be an accessor or a mutator. So an accessor or a getter method. So the name for the getter method is another, and that is the accessor method. So whenever I just say accessor or getter, so take that two things as same, okay. These are some different names for one particular thing, okay. Accessor and getter are actually same. So an accessor slash getter methods returns the information about the object but do not change the state or the object. So basically what it does, it actually returns the information about the object, okay. It returns the information about the object but do not change the state or the object, okay. Now moving towards the mutator or the setter method. So whenever I just say mutator or setter, so they both are actually same, right? So meaning for both of them are same, the only difference is between the names, right? So a mutator slash setter methods are also called an update method that can change the state of the object. Now just a look at the little definition, little difference that we have here. So accessor and getter methods actually they do not change the state, and mutator or setter methods actually change the state. This is the only difference between the accessor and mutator methods, right? Now for each instance variable, a getter method returns its value while a setter method returns or updates its value. Given this, getters and setters are also known as accessors and mutators. That thing I had already mentioned here. No, not like need not to mention that once again. So this was the definition about and regarding the accessor and mutator method, that is setter and getter. Now I'll be just revising at the definitions and letting you know the whole detail of the definition at the point when I am completed with the code for setter and getter as well. right? So let me zoom in here and let's start writing the code. Firstly, I'll be using out my getter method. So I would just give it a heading as well, getter, and here I would just write as a method, right? Okay. Now let's start writing the code for now. And the things that comes here is that firstly I will be defining a class. And let's say that class is flower. Okay, class and then flower. I would just put the colon here. Coming inside this class, I will be defining the init function that we have. So div underscore underscore init underscore underscore and then the bracket, and in that self will automatically be passed because we are defining a function inside the class, right? Now I have here self dot type. I just want to write self dot type here, okay? And for that type, I just want to give a type. Let's say any name for the flower, and that is, let's say I just want to add here a sunflower, right? So I had made the function. Inside that function I had just used the self, and this self basically helped me to define the type that I have done here, self dot type, and into this type I had added sunflower, right? Now I will be defining, let's say, another function, and that is div underscore get name. Now why I have used the get name? Because I am gonna use my getter method. So this is the place where I had just used out my getter method, right? So I hope that you have got an idea for this thing, that why I had just used this get underscore name, right? Now I would put out the brackets here, and that will basically pass out the self for me. Here I would be adding return, and that would be giving me self dot type. I want to return the self dot type that I have passed here, right? That will be returning me as an output here. So I have written into this get method. Now what I would just do here, let me just come down, and here I would be making the object. So let's say f is the object that I had made for this flower class. So f is equal to flower and then these brackets. After that, I would make a variable that is, let's say, a, and in this I would be using that get underscore name function, and I would be accessing that name function, get underscore name function, with the help of the object for my flower class. Basically pay attention towards my words, whatever I am just saying right now. Okay, so here I am making a variable, and into that variable, what I am storing, I am accessing the get underscore name function with the help of the object of my flower class, right? And I would simply print here as a small a, right? And now I would just run out my program here. So I'm just getting here the answer as sunflower, right? So this is basically how we just use the getter method. So read out the definition that an accessor slash mutate, getter method returns the information about the object, but do not change the state or the object. It basically, it will, what it will do, it will return me the information about the object. And yes, it is doing the same thing, right? It is returning me the information about the object, but it is not at all changing the state or the object, right? This is about the you can just call it as getter method, right? Now moving towards the setter method that I have here, so I would just add on the comment here, and that is, I would just write it setter setter methods, right? Now into the setter method, I would again take the same class which I had taken previously, because I do not want to like differentiate too much so that it would be difficult for you to understand. Okay, let me first zoom in a more. Right, so my class name is here. Again, that is the same, which is flower. Okay, and I would just put out the colon here, class flower, and then the colon. Moving towards the next line, I would again define that div underscore underscore, and then init again underscore underscore, and in bracket it is self. Right, so this I have just defined it here right now. Coming to the next line, what I had taken, I would write here self dot type. Okay, not comma, it is self dot type, right? And that is equal to here as sunflower. Okay, sunflower. Self dot type is equal to sunflower. Moving towards the next line, I would be just writing here div, and let's give it a name. Let's say now that name is set underscore name, right? This is the name for my function that I am making right now. So div set underscore name, and in bracket the self will automatically be passed, because I'm again and again repeating from the very first of this video. Right now I'm just again telling you that I have defined this function inside the class, so because of that the self has automatically be passed inside this bracket, right? Now I would just again use here that self dot type is equal to Lily. Okay, let's say I just write here self dot type is equal to Lily. Now, what I would be just doing here is that I would be making an object for my flower class. Okay, f is equal to flower. Then I just want to print the type. Let's say I just want to print the type before before using my setter method, before using my set name, I want to print out the type. Okay, so I would just use here print, and that is f dot type. Okay, that is type. Right now, after using my setter method, so now here I'll be using my setter method, that is f dot set underscore name, right? name, right? After this, if I use out my f dot type, now just please pay attention towards the difference that we'll be able to see in the output. Let me just quickly run out this thing here. Okay. Oh, okay, I haven't commented the above thing. Let me just quickly comment that out here, comment, and now I will just run this once again. Right, have a look at what output actually I am getting here. So the outputs I am getting here are sunflower and lily. So when I had just printed it before the using of my set underscore name, that is my setter method, before using the set underscore name, when I had just like written it, when I just run it f dot type, it was giving me this previous one which I had mentioned here in this init function, that is sunflower. Now, after using my set underscore name function, when I am trying to print f dot type, that is the same command, now it is giving me the lily function because it has updated the values which I had stored. And yes, this was the definition for the setter method as well, right? Let me just quickly show you that thing here, that a mutator slash setter method, also called an update method, can change the state of the object. And yes, it has done that thing, right? It has basically changed out the value for here which we had entered, right? Firstly, we had written sunflower. So at the first it was giving me that same thing. But at the second position I have written lily. So at the second position it was giving me lily because it had updated that previous value and given me a new value here. Right. Now basically this was a long form which you can follow up for basically for writing out the setter method. If you just want to follow out one short form for the setter method, so that also I have. Let me show you how you can just write it in a short form. So simply define a class. Let's say my class is same, that is flower. Okay, I'll just zoom in this like. Okay. Now class flower is my same. I would just define simply div set underscore name. I just not define that init and all that things. I would simply define div and my set underscore name, that is my setter method. Right. Now after that, into the bracket the cell will automatically be passed, and even I've just passed one parameter here. And I would just write self dot type is equal to m. Okay, that I have just done. Self dot type, I have initialized it to n. I would make a variable for my flower sorry, I would make one object for this flower. Okay, that is my class. So f is equal to flower. After that, I would just use f dot set underscore name, and in the bracket, let's say I just want to set the name as lily. Okay, that is single I, lily. Okay, and I would simply print that f dot that I have used above. Okay, that is type, and I just need to correct the spelling for the printer as well. Right, and now if I just run out my program, I would be getting the answer that is only and only lily. So this is the short form that basically how can just use out the setter method. Short form for using that. Right. So I hope now this must be very clear to you that how you can just use this setter and getter methods for in the classes. So let me just again revise out the definitions for you that are written here. So a getter method returns its value while a setter method sets or updates its value. Okay, this is the main difference which you can say between the setter and getter. So a getter method returns its value while a setter method sets or updates its value. Right. So I hope this must be very clear to you that what are the setter and getter methods, what are the another names for the setter and getter methods, and how you can just use that in the OOPS concept. Right, about the generators in the OOPS concept. Now we are just going to see that what are these generators, what we just mean from it, and how to write the program for this. Right. So let's move on to the definition with the first, and after that we'll be moving towards the program. So Python generators are a simple way of creating iterators, right? So these are a simple way for creating iterators. Iterators we all know, right? Like when we just want to add some value, particularly add some value onto some loop or something like that, that is called iterators. So a generator is a function that returns an object which we can iterate over. It is easy as defining a normal function, but with a yield statement instead of a return statement. Okay. Now, generators are actually, you can just call them as functions only. Okay, these are actually another type of functions only which we actually make here. But what is the difference? That in normal functions, what we do, we simply use out the return statements, right? We use the return statements for returning some value. But in generators, actually what we do, we use a yield statement, that is Y-I-E-L-D, yield statement for returning any output. This is the basic difference that comes under this yield function and even which comes under this for this function, okay, for this generators and even for this normal function, right? So it is actually these are what generators are. Now let me quickly let you know about the programming and all those things regarding the generators. So let me just come down here and okay, let me just minimize this thing a little bit so that it is easy to see the things. Right, let's begin now with the program for here. So let's say I just want to define something, right? That's it, let's say def. Name for my function is 1, okay, and then the bracket. Inside this, I want to pass on two parameters that are a comma b. I want to put the colon and come on to the next line, okay. Now, here basically, I just, instead of the return function, instead of return, I would simply use yield function here, Y-I-E-L-D, Y-I-E-L, yield, okay. Instead of that, we simply use the yield, A. And after that, I would be using here as yield, Y-I-E-L-D, yield, and then B, okay. So, yield A and yield B. Instead of return, we always use these two, you can just call it as keyword for inside these generators. Okay. Now, after that, what I can just do is that I can just pass some values here. Let's say I just want to pass P comma Q is equal to, and in the one, I just save the value. Let's say values are 3 comma 5. Okay. And coming on to the next line, I simply want to print P and I simply want to print here as Q, right? So this will actually work. Let me now just quickly run out my program here for a while, right? So here you are able to see the values for 3 and 5. So I haven't used any print statement or I haven't used any return statement. So this answer I am getting because of this yield keyword that I have used here, right? So this is the use of this yield keyword that we actually apply and that we actually use here, right? I would just close this answer for here for a while. Now what I do, what I just like, if I just make a variable here, that is, let's say final. Okay, let's say final is a variable which I had made. Now into this, if I just call out the one function and pass some value, let me now just quickly comment out these lines here. Okay, if I now just, okay, just 1 second, right? Let's say in this I just pass 2 comma 4. Okay, and I want to print out final here. So print final. If I just now try to run this program, okay, so now just have a look. Basically, what it is giving me, it is not displaying me the answer, but rather than it is giving me generated object at this particular position, right? So this is basically, if you declare one variable, then according to that, you will not be getting any output. Fine. If I want to check out the type, so if I just write print and then type, and here if I just write here as final, and now again if I just run it here for a while, so now just have a look at what it is giving me. It is giving me that the type for the final variable which you had made here, it is a generator, right? So that I'm just getting here as an output. Fine. So I just done that thing. If I just want to convert it into the list format, if I just want to convert it into the list, then how will I be doing that? So for that I would be using here list1 is equal to, and here be using list, okay, that is list, and into the bracket I will be passing here as final, the variable name which I had used above. Now I will be just commenting these two lines as well here. Okay, just let me quickly print this thing as well. I use print and in bracket I would just write here as list1, and now if I just run out my program, Now have a look. Now it has been converted into the list. Now I am able to see this output, that is 2 comma 4. So basically the number of parameters, the number of values which you have passed inside the function, you need to use that number of variables only. Otherwise it will not show you the output. And if you just convert that into list, then it will basically give you the output. Okay, that I have done. Now what I would be just doing is that if I just want to now check out the list one, now that would be actually my list. I would just not do that. I would just comment it out here for a while. Right, this is done. Now let's use out some more function with the help of yield. Let's say I just make another program, another function, and again that function 1. Okay, let's not make it as 1, let's make it as 2. Okay, def 2. And now what I can apply here is that I can give two values. Let's say that are a comma b. Again, just let me do one thing here. Let me just quickly comment out this above code which we had written. Otherwise, it will basically show us some or the other errors afterwards and will not basically allow us to run the program. Fine, that is done. Come on to the next line here. Now I would be just using here yield A and yield B. So yield A, and after that I would be using here as yield B, yield A and then yield B, right? So in that case, after that I would be using here as final is equal to 1. Okay, final is equal to 1, and okay, inside the bracket, let's say, okay, not 1, I would be using here as 2 because 2 is the name for my function, right? So final is equal to 2, and after that I'll be passing some value. Let's say values are 6 comma 5. Okay, and I would just write here. Now I'll be just using one function, that is next, and in that I'll be writing here as final. Now if I run my program one time, okay, now have a look that it will only be giving me the false value that you have. So this next is actually one of the another function that we have in the generators, and what it actually helps us to do, it actually helps us to print the values one by one. Okay, now let's say if you just want to display the value that is 5. So in that case you'll be using here print. Then you'll be using next. Again you will be writing that answer. You will again be using the next. Now you'll be able to see both the answers that are 6 and 5. Let me show you that thing in a zoom way. Right, 6 and 5. Right. So this is actually which like how we can just apply this next function with the help of this yield. If you just want your output to come one by one, so in that you can apply this next function. If you just want to want that all the values that are coming, that should come on one go. So in that case what you can just do is that you can simply print out the statement whatever you just want, right? Now I have another one last program for this generator. Let me quickly comment out these three and let me come down here. Fine. Let's say I define a third function, that is def3. Okay. Into this again I pass two parameters. Let's say p comma q. Right. Now what I would just do is that let's say I just apply a condition. I want to let's say I want to print the numbers for some particular range itself. Okay. Let's say I apply while a is less than equal to b. Okay, while a is less than equal to b, and in that case basically use here as yield. Okay, that is why I, okay, instead of a and b it is p. While p is less than equal to q, the colon, and use here yield uh, yield p. Okay, I need to apply a condition that till the point the value for p is less than or equal to q, simply apply this yield function. Okay, yield p. And what to do here, I just need to be incremented. I just want it to be incremented, right? So a is equal to a plus 1. This goes on here, a is equal to a plus 1, right? Now I would just apply that one variable, let's say final, and there I would just write it as 3. Okay, and now in the bracket, let's say my values are 1 comma 6. Right? I would come on to the next line. I would just try to print it one by one only, not in one go. I would just write here print, and inside this I would use the next, and inside that I would use here as final. And now I would just try to run it once. See, okay, just let me zoom in. The first answer that I am getting here is 1. Okay, now if I want to see the rest of the answers that are coming, so what I would be just doing is that I'd be writing here print, again I would be adding the next, and again in bracket I'd be writing here as final. And now I would just run it once again. Okay, what it is saying me, it is saying me local variable a reference before assignment. Okay, just let me go above. Okay, so instead of the A, it should be P is equal to P plus Q. Okay, now I'll just run this once again. Fine. Now you are able to see the answer as 2 also. Now if I just want to see the third output also, then what I would just do, I would again use out this print statement as well, that is print next, and that is final. Okay, I would just now again run it. Just have a look here. See, now it is printing me 1, 1, 2 and 3. Right, so I can just print it n number of times, whatever I just want. Let's say control V, and let's say control V, and even one more time. I had given it for 7 times. Let me run it. Now let's see what output will it be giving. See, it is giving me the value from 1 till 6. Okay, and after that it is giving me some error. Let's see. It is giving me that print next final is stop iteration. Why it will stop the iteration? Because I have given the condition here only till P less than equal to Q, and P is storing the value as 1 and Q is storing the value as 6. So it will only and only go from 1 till 6, right? So this is basically how we just use out the generators in Python programming. Let me just again go here and show you the definition which we had written here for generators, and that is Python generators are a simple way of creating iterators, as I just showed you that thing right now, right? And a generator is a function that returns an object, that is iterator, which we can iterate over one value at a time. It is easy as defining a normal function but with a yield statement instead of a return statement. Right, so I hope I made this thing very clear to you about the generators, that what actually are generators and how do we just write the program and define the generators in the Python programming language. Right, going to discuss about another topic in advanced Python, and that is duck typing. Duck typing, right? This is the name of the topic that we are going to discuss today. So we are just going to see that actually what is this duck typing in advanced Python programming, even Python programming as well, and what we can just say about this, what does it actually mean, how can we just write the program, and all that things we're going to see today, right? So today's topic is duck typing. Now first of all, actually there's a phrase which is basically said like a lot of times, and it is a phrase. Let me just let you know that phrase. So the phrase is that if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? This is actually a phrase which actually acts upon here. So first of all, I would just write that phrase here, and let you know some other details about the duck typing as well, right? So I would just add on this side that, okay, let me even put these code so that I can just write n number of things inside this thing, right? Yes, so here it goes that I would just write there. Okay, one second, give me 1 second. So yes, so there is a phrase that that if it looks like a duck, if it looks like a duck and basically and quacks like a duck. Okay, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. Actually, why I am just telling you this phrase here, because this phrase actually applies on the topic that we are going to see today, which is duck typing, right? So this phrase actually applies onto this topic. That is the reason that I'm telling you this phrase, right? So if there is a phrase that if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Now what we actually say from duck typing, what we just actually can say, what is the main definition for this thing? So it is basically, it is okay, just let me write that thing. Yes, so it is a concept, it is a concept of an object, sorry, it is a concept which is basically related, to dynamic, typing. Okay, dynamic. Okay, so it is a concept which is basically related to dynamic typing. First thing, which is this thing about the duck typing, is that it is a concept which is related to dynamic typing. Now second thing that comes here is that, now I would just put one comma, and here I would be adding that where the type of class, okay, where the type of class of an object, of an object with the type of class of an object is less important than the methods of than the methods it defines, right? And basically, okay, just one second, let me come on to the next line. And another thing about this duck typing, just let me write that even that after I'm just gonna explain you each and everything, right? So when you use duck typing, you do not check you do not check types. Okay, you do not check types at all, right? This is about whole about the duck typing. Now let me quickly explain you the things which I have just written here. So it is a basically concept which is related to dynamic typing. So whenever we just talk about duck typing, so it is a concept which is actually related to the dynamic typing. Okay, after that, it comes that where the type of class of an object is less important. Okay, if we are just like we make a class, right, and we just define an object for this class. So it is a concept which is related to dynamic typing where the type of class of an object is less important than the methods it defines, right? Basically here the class the object of a class is less important, but what is important? Methods are actually the functions that we define, right? Method it defines. So when you use duck typing, you do not check types at all. So basically whenever we are just going to define and just when we are going to use a duck typing, so basically we do not define and check about the types at all. Okay, this is a very easy definition about the duck typing, a very easy concept about the duck typing. Now it will be more clear to you if I just write a program and then show you this thing, right? So let me come down here and go above. Right, let's start writing the things here. And now basically what I would just do is that I will make a class. Okay, now what will that class be actually having into it? So this class will actually, let's say the class name is A. Okay, I would just come on to the next line. Now here basically I would define a function that is underscore underscore len underscore underscore and then the brackets. So self will automatically be passed because here I have used a function inside the class. This is actually which we even call as a method also, right? In the definition I mentioned about the method as well, right? That the object for the class is basically no matters, but method it defines is less important, right? So I have just told you about the method. So this is actually which we call as method. So defining a function inside the class is called a method. Right, let me come on to the next line. And simply let's say I want to return 11 here. Let's say this is like number which I just want to return. Fine. Now what I would just do, I would make my main function. It's a main if name is equal to main, right? Now I would just make another variable. Let's say this is my object, okay, for my class. So here my class is A and the object, and you can just say variable whatever you just put, that is B, small b, right? So just call it as object, it will be the correct name for calling out this thing, right? Now after that what I just want to do is that I want to print out, let's say I want to print out the length of B. Now in B basically B is the object for my class that is A. So basically it will be printing me the object, it will basically print me the class, right? This is the thing that is coming here. So if I just run out my program here, so after running out my program, see what answer that I am getting here. I'm just getting the answer that is 11, right? That was the length for this class in which I have defined this function, right? So this is basically example which we can just say for okay that this example is belonging to the duck typing, right? Now move on to one more example which I have, and that will be a more clearer example so as to show you. So just let me come down this side. Okay, just one second, right here. Okay, now here I'll be defining a class, let's say. Okay, so let's say my class name is class and the name for my class is A, let's say. Okay, this is a simple name, we just can write it here. So class is A actually. Now what I would just do is that I'll be defining one function inside my class that is making my method, right? So def and then one, and in the bracket it is actually self, right? Inside this, let's say I want to add out a print statement, and that print statement is actually, let's say the print statement which I want to add out here is first class. Okay, let's say first class, first and then class. Let's say this is the statement which I want to add. Okay, simple statement. I would come out, I would define my another class that is class A. This is my class B. Okay, into this I would be defining again the function, again the method, but I would be giving the name it as one itself, the same name. Okay, I would just not change out the names too much here. I would just give out the same name. And Here simply I would print my statement that is second, and it would be class like the second class, right? So that has been actually printed here. Okay, just one second, right? Now just again come down to this place, and if I just write here class, see this is my third class actually, okay? And in this class I'll be defining let's say I would be defining a new method here. One was a method which I have already used, right? When I have already defined. Now I'm defining two, let's say. And in the bracket, it would this will automatically be passed because I'm defining it inside a class, right? So, and in this, I just want to print out the statement. And let's say that the statement is, let's say, third class, third. And here goes the class, right? So till now, what I had just, let me quickly give you an overview what I had just done till now. So I had made a class that is A, and into this class I had just passed a function, and that function is actually 1, okay? And I had just even printed the statement that is first class. Other than that, I have defined another function that is, another class that is B, and inside that I had made a function that is 1, right? And that function is actually basically having a print statement which is second class. Then I have defined my third class that is C. And I have defined my second method, that is my second function, which is 2, right? And inside this to method which I have defined, I have written a print statement that is third class, right? Now, if I just want to access all of these classes together, we can just basically use one method, and that is I can apply my for loop here, okay? So for obj, okay, just one second, right? So for obj in, I will just even write the name for my class, that is A, comma, B, comma, C, right? So for obj in ABC, come on to the next line, and simply here I would just write obj dot 1, right? And I would simply now and the brackets. And now I would simply run out my program. So just have a look here that basically what answer will I be getting. Fine. First, see that I just got here first class and the second class. So in my first class and second class, what I was having, in my class A, I was having the function that is 1, and that was storing first class, right? Then in my class B, I was even having that one function, right? And it was storing my second class. Then come on to the third class which I had made. Let me show you that thing. Now, in the third class, basically, I do not have a function with the name 1. The name for my function is 2, right? But then also I am trying to access this through the one function. So that is why now it has basically printed me the answer for the first class and second class. And other than that, it is basically giving me the error that is basically attribute error. See, object has no attribute 1. So what I just wanted to convey from here is that we can see a class, right? We can just see a class that supports a method, and we can just modify it afterwards also. And basically what are the functionality we give to these methods, we can just modify them afterwards as well, right? So this is basically how a duck typing actually works. Let me again just read out the definitions for you which we have written. So it is a concept which is related to dynamic typing. So where the type of class of an object is less important. Okay, just understand the words very carefully, that where the type of class of an object is less important than the method it defines. Okay, than the method it defines actually. Okay, so when you use duck typing, you do not check the types at all, right? So this is the whole idea that you can use for this duck typing concept which we have here in this Python programming, right? So I hope I made this thing very clear to you, that what we mean from duck programming and duck typing, and what type of programs you can just write, what type of program you can apply here, right? So I'm going to tell you about one another term, and that is basically encapsulation. So now basically I'd be telling you that basically what encapsulation is, how do we do encapsulation, and basically what is the use of doing this in Python programming. Like what's the use of doing this thing? Like already we were having many functions, many things. Now this one more new thing has come. So what's the use of doing that thing here? Right, so these are all the things that we are gonna cover today. So let's begin up. So first of all, what I'm just doing is that I'll be telling you about the definition of the encapsulation. Okay, that what encapsulation actually is. So encapsulation is a process. So it is basically a process of wrapping. It's the process of wrapping up variables and methods. Okay, it's a simple definition for the encapsulation is that it is the process of wrapping up variables and methods into a single entity, right? This is a definition which we have here for the encapsulation, right? Now, basically, I would just like to give you an example that basically what I just mean from that it is a process of wrapping of variables and methods into a single entity. So basically, in programming, actually what we have. So I would just write that thing at here itself. So in programming, a class. So in programming, a class is an example. In programming, a class is an example that wraps. That wraps all the variables and the methods, right? And I would just add on this thing and the methods here, fine? So and the methods. So here we have, right? So this is basically what we just call it as, um, like in programming, we have a class that is an example that wraps up all the variables and the methods, which are basically defined inside the class, right? Defined in it. So as that same only condition, we have encapsulation as well. So basically, encapsulation is a process of wrapping up variables and methods into a single entity. Right, so I hope you just got the point about the definition of encapsulation. Now, what's the use of encapsulation in Python programming? So let's move on to this topic right now. So basically, here it is written that encapsulation acts as a protective layer by ensuring that access to wrap data is not possible by any code defined outside the class in which the wrap data are defined. Encapsulation provides security by hiding the data from the outside world. So this is the main use of encapsulation, which we see that it provides the security by hiding the data from the outside world. And how it can, basically how it can provide security. So in that case, basically comes the role of public, private and protected variables that we'll be discussing afterwards in the videos. But for now, basically it is the whole like thing that we have here for the encapsulation. So it actually acts as a protective layer which basically ensures that the wrapped data which we have, so basically it is not very easy to get access to that data, right? And basically not at all possible for any code which is basically defined outside the class in which the wrap data are defined, right? So encapsulation actually provides us a type of security by hiding the data from the outside world, right? This is the whole idea which comes into the encapsulation, right? So now I hope that this must be very clear to you that actually what encapsulation is, right? Now let's move on to some example for the encapsulation and let's see basically some example for this, and after that we'll be again coming to the definition once again, and then you'll be getting it more clear that basically how all these things happen, right? What is actually encapsulation and how you can just write a program and verify that okay, encapsulation is the procedure that is performed here. So I would just write your class and then let's say I define a class that is A. Okay, simple, very simple class which is actually A, which I have just defined here, right? Now I would just define a method to it that is underscore underscore init underscore underscore and in the bracket it's a self, right? So right now if I just simply define a class variable, then I can just access the class variable with the help of the class name as well as with the help of the object, right? That is very true, that we all know. Now, what if I define a protected variable here, right? What if I define a protected variable? So, for protected variable, basically, I would just add on here self dot and I would just put on here underscore 1 and that is equal to 2. Right, so the for protected variables, we had already discussed this thing in the previous videos as well, right? So self dot underscore 1. Now, if I just put one single underscore, so that means I have defined a protected variable. Keep this thing in your mind always that if I define one single underscore in the starting of a variable, so that will be my protected. And if I define double underscore, so that will be my private variable, right? Just make sure to remember those things very carefully. So I've just defined this self dot underscore 1 and just given it a value as 2. Fine. I would not, next thing that I would be doing is that I'll be defining a class. And let's say that class is B. Okay, now come on to the next line. I would just write here def and that would again be init underscore underscore init and in the bracket it would be self, right? I just defined the self method once again into this class B. Now, okay. Before that, what I was just doing is that I'll be even applying the single inheritance here, right? So this is a single inheritance actually which we do. So I've just inherited the class A into B. So this means that whatever the properties, whatever the functions, methods I'll be having in my class A, all of them have even come to my class B as well, right? So I can just execute now everything from my class A as well, right? So now let's move forward, and basically here I'll be adding capital A. That was my class, right? This is my class actually which we had taken. So A dot, and here I'll be writing underscore underscore in it, underscore underscore, and then in bracket it would be so like this. Okay, and I would just come to the next line, and here I would simply add a print statement. Let's say my print statement which I just want to add is that calling a protected number, calling a protected, let's say, variable, I would just add here. Okay, let me correct out this spelling like this. Okay, so calling a protected variable, let's say this is the print statement which I actually wanted to add here, right? Now I would just simply write here again one of my print statements, and I will simply print, okay, that is self dot underscore one. Now underscore one is my protected variable, right, that we had defined above. So next procedure, I would be making the object for class A and B. So obj1 is equal to A, and basically obj2 is equal to B. This is basically how we do, right? And now I would just run out my program here. So let me do that. Fine. So basically here what answer did I got? I just got that calling a protected variable and then 2, right? So because I just made the object, so because of that my all the these functions run, and I just get this output, that is calling a protected variable and then 2. So 2 was the number which I have stored in self dot underscore 1. Here I have stored, right? Now if I just write out my print statement here, okay, I just wrote out my print statement, and inside this print statement, if I just write obj2 dot, and I just write here as 1, okay. Now if I run out my program here, now just have a look that I am getting a type of error, and that is attribute error. Basically B object has no attribute 1. This is the type of error which I am getting here. Why? Because calling the protected member outside class will result in attribute error. Just make sure to remember this thing, that calling protected member outside the class, okay, let me put the hash as well, will result error. That would be attribute error itself. I would just not write that thing very detailed, because under we are just able to see it here. So whenever you just able like trying to call the protected member outside the class, so it will basically result you error. And here this is the same thing that we are trying to do, right? We are just trying to call the protected member outside the class. So this is the whole reason that why this is not running and just giving me the attribute error, right? So I hope I made this encapsulation very clear to you, that what actually encapsulation is. Let me just quickly give you an overview about what we have discussed regarding the encapsulation right now. So we had seen that encapsulation is a process of wrapping of variables and methods into a single entity, right? In programming, a class is an example that wraps all the variables and the methods defined in. So basically in programming, so a class is an example that actually wraps all the variables and the methods defined in it. Okay, so we can just access the methods, access the variables with the help of the class name only, right? That is basically wrapping up the data into something. So that is actually something my class, right? And next, basically, what do I have? So encapsulation acts as a protective layer by ensuring that access to wrapped data is not possible by any code defined outside the class in which the wrapped data are defined. Encapsulation provides security by hiding the data from the outside world. So this is actually what was done here in the output as well, right? I was not able to access my protected variable. Why I was not? Because here basically this encapsulation thing was applied, and because of that it was basically giving the security to the variables which I have defined, and it was basically hiding the data from the outside world, right? So I hope I made this thing very clear to you regarding this encapsulation topic, that what is this and how we just write the program, and what are the things that apply, and why we just use this encapsulation Python programming, right? So this is to discuss about the map, filter and reduce, these three functions which we have in Python programming, right? So first of all, I would let you know that basically why we just use these three parameters, these three functions into our Python programming codes, and after that basically we'll be writing the codes for all of the threes, right? So map, filter and reduce are the paradigms of functional programming, right? So this is absolutely okay. After that, basically why we just use this map filter and reduce, right? So we just use this map filter and reduce because they allow the programmer, basically you are the programmer, right? So it basically allows the programmer to write simpler, shorter code without necessarily needing to bother about intricacies like loops and branching, right? So this is the main use, that's why actually map filter and reduce are used, because actually they allow you, basically the programmer, write the simpler, shorter code, and basically you need not to bother too much about the loops and branching and all those things. Okay, this basically keeps you a little bit apart from loops and branching. So this is the main reason that why map filter and reduce are actually used in Python programming. Right, so we had understood that why we just use it, right? What is the use? Now let's move on to that, basically how to write and use these functions into the Python programs. So here I would just start up with the map function. After that we'll be seeing a filter, then reduce. Okay, so one hash, and like this I would just write here map. Okay, and like this again I would just put it. Fine. Now let's say I just want to define a list. Okay, I have taken a list, let's say, and the variable in which I'm just storing the list, that is num. Okay, so let's say num is equal to 5, 6, 7, 8, and let's say comma 2, 3, 4. Let's say this is the variable which we have taken, and inside this variable we had stored a list, right? Now I want to do the square of these square of all the numbers which I have here. So instead of using the for loop, while loop, and applying several conditions, what I can just do is that simply I can just use my map function. Okay, so let's say I just took a variable that is sq, that is basically referring to my square. Okay, square of a number. So sq is equal to, and in this I will be taking the list, right? Inside the bracket I'll be using out my map function, and even in the bracket I'll be using my lambda function, right? So lambda x, I put the colon, and that is x multiplied by x, right? This is basically what we just want, comma, and I would just writing here as num. Fine, and this is basically, and I will simply print out my sq, that is a square. So this map is actually the function which is again and again going and listing to these indexes and basically resulting with the output and all those things. This map function is actually performing. Right, I would just now try to run out my program here and just see, have a look that I just got the square of all the numbers here, that is 5 square is 25, 6 square is 36, 7 is 49, 8 is 64, 2 is 4, 3 is 9, and 4 is 16. Right, these are the squares which we have. So this is actually how we just use the map function. Okay, that is okay. This is one of the programs that we have done. Another example for map function, another example, right? We do not have only one example, we have one more, that is second example as well. Okay, let me define a function here. Let's say that function is square. Okay, and in the bracket let me pass a parameter, that is a. Okay, now what this function will actually return? This function will actually return me a multiplication a, that is the square of numbers. Fine, I would define another function, that is cube, and again in the bracket I would pass the a parameter, right? Now what this will actually return? This will actually return me triple times a multiplication, a multiplied by a multiplied by a. Right, that is absolutely fine. Now what if I just make a function, and into this function I just pass on this square comma cube. Okay, I just made a list and I just pass this square and cube basically into a variable, that is function. Okay, this is actually what I just did, and I can apply a loop that for I in range. Okay, so for I in range, and in bracket it is 4. Like let's say I just want to print out the square and the cube till 4 numbers. Okay, then I would take a variable that is value is equal to, and I will just pass on that list here because I just made the list for the variable in which I had stored the square and cube, right? I just made the list. So I just stored value is equal to list, right? And after that, basically, I would be passing on my map function here using that map function. And inside the bracket, it would be simple. That is my lambda function, lambda x colon x, and in the bracket, it is I. Right, and here what I would just do, I would just call the function, right? The function variable in which I have just written my square and cube. right? And now it will simply print me out the value, that is print, and after that it is value, right? And now when I would just run out my program, so just have a look here that what output I am getting. So see, first it is taking me till 4 numbers because I have written the range till 4. So it has automatically started from the 0th value. So 0 comma 0 is square is also 0, cube is also 0. Now for the 1 also the values are actually same. Move on towards the 2. So for 2 the square is 4 and the cube is 8, right? And for the 3 the square is 9 and the cube is 27. And whatever the range you just put on here, it will go up to that particular range here. Fine. So I hope that you had got a fair and a clear idea that how actually we just use this map function while writing out the programs. Fine. Now let me just quickly comment out this program as well, and now I'm just moving towards the filter function. So map is actually completed. I would just put a hash here and I would just add the name, that is filter. Okay, that is filter, and then just like this. Fine. Now come on to the next line. Basically here I would again be defining a list, let's say. Okay, that is, let's say, my list 1 now. So list 1 is equal to, let's say I just passed on some values into this list. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay. Now what if I just want to, so like print the numbers which are greater than 3. Let's say I just want to print out the numbers which are greater than 3. So in that case what I would just, okay, I'm sorry, I just make a function for that. So def, and the name for my function would be, let's say, greater, and in the bracket I'll be passing here one variable, let's say that is number. Okay, and the colon, come on to the next line. And basically what it will return, it will basically return me the numbers greater than 3, right? Come on to the next line. So basically here I would be making that greater as a variable. So greater is equal to list, and now here I will be applying my filter function. Okay, filter function. So greater is equal to filter, and into the bracket I would again pass on the values, that is my my function name is greater, and into this function I have the, and which variable I just want to check upon. So I just want to check upon the list 1, right? I just want to apply this greater function onto the list 1, and simply I just want to print here as greater. Simply I want to print here as greater, right? And now I would just again run out my program. So basically have a look that it is basically resulting me the answer, that is 4, 5. So 4, 5 is basically greater than 3, right? I just applied a condition that return me the numbers that are greater than 3. So in that case I am getting here 4 and 5, right? Because 4 and 5 are greater than 3, right? So this is basically how we just use out this filter function in Python programming. Right, now let me just quickly comment out this filter as well. Now basically it's the turn for dealing with the reduce function. Okay, now basically we'll be seeing that what is that reduce function and how we just apply this. So actually reduce is a function which comes with library. Okay, which basically comes with a module. As simply we're writing the filter and map, we do not write the reduce function like this. So for reduce actually we just use a import method, import some library, and after that we just write out the reduce method function. Okay, right, let me just show you how. So I would just write here the name for the library, that is fun tools. Okay, so that is not fun tool, that is func TWLS, that is FUNC Okay, so from func tools I would be importing my reduce function here. Okay, so basically from my func tools import the reduce function, right? This is the thing that do. After that come on to the next line, and let's say I just define out my list, that is my list 2. Okay, and into this I can just pass out some several values, let's say 5, 7, 8 and 9. Okay, so these are the 5 values that I have passed. Let me initialize a variable, that is num, and that is basically equal to 0. Right, so I can now just apply my for conditions. So for I in list 2. List 2 is a variable in which I have stored my list, right? That is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for I in list 2, and I would just write here as num is equal to num plus 1. Num is equal to not 1, it is I. Num is equal to num plus I. Okay, and I would simply print out here the num. Okay, I would simply print out now. So this is basically how we just do if we just want to like print some numbers and all those. If I just want to print the addition of all the numbers, this is how I will be doing that. Now, if I run my program, I would be getting the answer. But if the same thing I want to apply without using the loops, so in that case, basically, I would be applying out my reduce function that we have imported right now. So how will I be doing that? So I'll be writing num is equal to, and here I'll be like using the reduce. Okay, so num is equal to reduce, and in the bracket I'll be passing on my lambda function. So num is equal to reduce lambda x comma y, putting the colon here, and I would simply write x plus y, right, comma, and I would just add on my list 2 here. Right, this is the procedure that I would be applying here if I just want to find out the addition of all the numbers which I have in my list with the help of the reduce function. And at last, I would simply print out my num. Right, so I would just even run out my program once here. So just have a look that I'm just getting the same answer which I was getting previously while running out my for loop. Right, so I hope that you have got a clear and a fair idea that basically how we use the map, reduce and filter functions and how are they actually useful in the Python programming. Let me just quickly revise the definition and the things that why it is used one more. So they allow the programmer to write simpler, shorter code without necessarily needing to bother about the loops and the branching. Right? This is the main use of map, filter, and reduce functions that we had seen, and even you had just seen the examples, right? That it was basically how it was helping us to make the code shorter. Learn about the class methods. Now we are going to see that actually what are class methods and how we just make these class methods in Python programming under the concept of OOPS, right? That is object oriented programming. So let me begin up with the definition for the class method. So just have a look here that whatever the things I have written, just read them very carefully, okay? So class method can be accessed from any instance of any class. Now basically it means that the class methods which you'll be making, right, that can be accessed from any instance or any class. Basically you can just access that class methods from any instance or any class. Now basically this was a thing that how we can just access the class methods, right? Now the next thing that comes here is that if you just want to make a method that can be accessed by instance as well as class and the argument which we pass and we don't want to take self, then we use class method. So basically now what is the use of this class methods in this object oriented programming? So let's say we want to make a method, okay? Now that method actually what it will do, so that can be basically accessed with the class and as well as the instance also, and even we just want to pass out some arguments in that case, and the main condition is that if we do not want to take self, then in that case basically we can use the class methods, right? So this is the thing, this is the place where we'll be needing the class method concept. Right, so I would just move towards the programming a little bit and I would just write a program and show you that basically how we can make a class method in Python programming. Right, so basically what I would be just doing here is that I'll be making a class. Okay, class. Now this class is, let's say the name for this class is a student. That is a student, right? This is the class name which I had made. Now inside this I would just want to make a class variable. Okay, now that class variable will be, let's say, number of subjects. Number of subjects, right? This is the class variable, and let's say I assign the value as 5. Okay, now come on to the next line here. Just let me go down. Right, now basically here what I'll be just doing is that I'll be defining that init function, right? Def underscore underscore init and then underscore underscore and then the bracket. So inside this self, now what I'll be doing is that I'll be passing some parameters here. Okay, I'll be just passing some parameters. Let's say that parameters are a name, and that is basically, let's say, a section, and let's say that is a marks. Right, these three are the, let's say, parameters which I had just passed here, right? So yeah, here, and I just simply put the colon this side. After coming inside this function, what I'll be just doing is that I'll be using out my self here, right? So I will just write here self dot name is equal to a name, right? After that it would be self dot section is equal to a section. Okay, and at last basically it would be self dot a marks is equal to marks, right? So this is the okay, so yeah, self, okay, here I just need to remove that a, I would simply write marks, fine. I had just taken self dot name, and onto that I had assigned the variable, assigned the value for the a name, right? Self dot section is basically having a section, and self dot marks is basically having a marks, right? This all of these things are done right now. After this, basically what I'll be just doing, I just want to make a function for the details, right? I just want to print all the details here, or whatever the person, whatever the name and the things I'm just entering. I want to like make sure that all the details I just got them in the output, right? So for that I would just make a function that is details. Okay, details. I would put the bracket and self will automatically be passed because we are defining a function inside the class. Right, come on to the next line here, and here I would simply use the return statement, and with that return statement I would use out my f string. Okay, self f string, and inside this I would just add that name is, I would just put the curly bracket, and here I would just write self dot name. Just let me calm down so that you can have a look of this thing properly, right? Name is this, section, okay, I would just write here section is, and for that also again I would just write self dot, and here I would just give it as a section, right? And I would just write here, and after that marks were there, right? And marks are, and in the curly brackets I would just simply write here self dot marks, right? Let's say this is the statement which I just want to print as an output for me, right? I have done. Now basically here comes the thing that how to make a class method, as I just mentioned. So for making the class method, the procedure is basically what we need to do is that we need to put a at the rate sign, okay, at the rate sign, and after putting that at the rate sign, I just need to write out the class method, and yes, we have made the class method. Let me show you how we basically write. So I would just put at the rate sign here, and here I would just add class method. So this is basically how we make a class method here, right? Now just come on to the next line, and let's say I just want to make one more function, and that function would be change underscore subject. It's a change underscore subject. Now as soon as I just have a look here properly, that as soon as I just like put the brackets, so CLS will automatically be passed here. Now the CLS is why it is being passed, because I have made my class method here, right? So because of that the CLS is being passed here, and inside this I am passing a parameter. Let's say that is leaves. Okay. Now basically I would just write here CLS dot number underscore of underscore subjects is equal to leaves, right? Let's say this is the thing that I'm doing here. So whatever the value was in the number of subjects, I'm just assigning that value to the leaves, right? That I have done here. So this is all. I would just come out of my class and just make the object. Let's say I just want to make two objects. So one is the object for my student class, let's say, and in the bracket I would just put out the details. Let's say name is Rita, and after that basically the section is, let's say, A, and marks are, let's say, 34. Okay, I would just do the same thing for one of my other object, that is 2. So 2 is equal to, I would just write here is student, and let's say another name which I'm just going to write here is let's say Rohan. Okay, Rohan. I would just put a comma here, and after that I would just put the section, and let's say again I would just put mark, let's say 21. Right, so these are the like details which I had just written here. Right, so basically here what I was just doing is that I would just write here the student, okay, student dot, and I would just try to access the change underscore subject, that is my function which I have declared under the class method, and I just want to change some value here, let's say 21. Okay, now if I just try to print my uh, class variable which was present here, that was number of subjects. So if I just write here print, and after that I just write one dot and number of subjects, this one, okay, and I just run it here. Now just have a look at what answer I am getting here. So the answer that I am getting here is 21. But in my class variable, the value which I had stored was 5, right? Just have a look here. The number of subjects was having the value as 5. But here in the output, why I am getting here the output as 21. So the reason for this is that here what I had done, I had made the class method, right? Now after that class method, what I had done, I had made this function that is change underscore subjects, right? Inside that I had passed CLS and leaves. Now coming inside this function, what I have done, I have write cls dot number of subjects is equal to leaves. So basically, whatever the number of subjects will be given, okay, whatever the like value I'm just gonna give here to the leaves, okay. Now that value of the leaves is going and it is being stored in this number of subjects like variable, right? What are the value I'll be giving to the sleeves? It will be stored in this, and what is the value was present in the number of subjects. Now that would be replaced from the new value that I have given. Okay, so that basically the new value which I had given is 21, right? So in that case, basically it is showing me the output, and that is 21, right? So this is the method, and this is the reason that why it is giving me the output as 21. Let's say if I just change this 21 value to something else. Let's say if I just change it to 34. Oh, okay, 34 I have already used. Let me just change out to some other value. Let's say if I just change this to 15, okay. And now if I just run it here. So now again have a look, the value which I am getting here is 15 because I have changed the value. So basically here I had in the change subjects, change underscore subjects, I was having a parameter that was leaves, right? On into this leaves parameter I had passed the value which is 15, right? Now that leaves basically the value which is into leaves that is being going and saved into the variable that is number of subjects. Basically, number of subjects I was already having a value as 5, but now that value has been changed because here I have given a new value. So that is why basically it resulted me the output as 50. Right, once again just read the definition for the class method which I had told you. The first thing was that class methods can be accessed from any instance or any class, right? That thing we had seen here. Second was that if we want to make a method that can be accessed by instance as well as class, and the argument which we pass and we do not want, and the argument which we pass and we don't want to take self, then we use the class method, right? So here basically the self is even not taken, even we had passed the argument, and even it is accessed with the name of the class or the instance, right? So now I hope you had like clearly got an idea that basically what this class method is and how to make a class method in Python programming, right? We are going to see the time module in a very detail. Basically what I'm just going to tell you is that what are the functions which you basically have in the time module, how to apply those functions. So actually in the time module we have a variety of time related functions, okay. There are many variety of time related functions. So basically today we are going to discuss the same and even seeing the examples that basically how you can just use that time function for writing out the program and finding out the current time and all those things, right? So let's without wasting time, let's get started here. So I would be putting out the multi-line comments because I would be writing and telling you about many functions first of all today, okay. That would be like many of the functions which I'll be telling you. So basically here goes that I'll be telling you about the very first thing is that time dot clock, okay. The very first function is time dot clock. Now basically what is this function actually used for? So it actually gives us the current CPU time in seconds, okay. So basically if you just want a current CPU time in seconds, so basically what we just use is that we use out this time dot clock function. So as soon as you're just going to write out this time dot clock, it will basically give you the current CPU time in seconds, right? Now second goes here, if I just use time dot time, okay, if I just use this function that is time dot time. Now what does this function actually gives us and what does it actually do? So this time dot time function actually gives you I would just write here itself, it gives you the current time, okay. It gives you the current time, that is GMT, that is the Greenwich Mean Standard Time, okay. GMT, Greenwich Mean Standard Time. In basically it gives the, okay, just 1 second, it gives the current time in seconds, since epoch, that is epoch. Basically it's a kind of like value or something, you can just call it as like that, okay. So it gives you the current time in seconds since epoch, okay. Now next thing goes up with another function that is time dot local time, okay. And in bracket it is basically seconds, it's like this, okay. Now what is the use of this function which is time dot local time and in bracket it is seconds? So basically it is used to, so the use of this is to convert time to local, okay, that is local time. Basically, it converts the time to local time. Okay, and basically, if we just say that what it actually returns, so it returns. I would just write here. It returns. Okay, not this one. It retur. It returns as a tuple. Okay, it returns a value in a form of a tuple. Okay, so this is basically the local time dot local time function which we have here. Okay, so this time dot local time in seconds basically converts the time into the local time and returns you the value as in a form of a tuple. Okay, now moving towards the next things. What I do have here, let's come on to the next line right here. Now, basically, next thing is time dot, and that is GMT time, and in the bracket it is seconds. Okay, time dot GMT time seconds. Right. This is the now next function. Okay, this is like right this here. Okay, now basically, what is the use of this function here? Which okay, just 1 second. Okay. Right. So what's the use of this time dot GMT time in seconds? So I would let you know that thing here. So it basically it's used to convert. It is used to basically convert time to GMT. Okay, converts the time to GMT, and for this also, what does it actually returns? It actually returns you. So I would just write here return as a tuple. It basically returns the value in the form of a tuple. It basically returns the time in form of a tuple. Okay. So this is the idea regarding this time dot GMT time function which we have here, which converts it into the seconds, right? Now, next basically what do I have? I have another function which is time dot, and that is AST time. Okay. And in the bracket, instead of that seconds, I'll be writing here tuple. Okay. Now, basically, what's the use of this AST time function? So the use of this is that it creates a first of all a string. Okay, so I would just write creates a string. Okay, I would just write that create a string, and okay, just let me add that s as well right here. So it creates the string, and basically which representing that time. Okay, I would just write here creates the string here representing the time. Okay, so this time dot ASC time in bracket tuple, it basically creates a string representing the time, right? This is the use of this ASC time function. Other than this, what I have ASC, sorry, now other function which I have is time dot CT time. Okay, CT time, C time you can just call that. Okay, so C time. Right, now what is this use of this function? So it is basically here the values in seconds, and this function actually what it does actually, it creates the string. I would just write here creates the string representing REPRESEN representing, it creates a string representing local time. It creates the string representing local time, right? This is the idea of this time dot c time seconds, right? Other than that, what do I have? Another functions. So I have time dot mk time. Okay, time dot mk time, another function which we have here. Now this is in basically here I would just pass out the tuple, okay, in the bracket. Now, what is the use of this function which we have here in the time module? So, it is basically used for the convert of time tuple. Okay, it converts the time tuple to 2 seconds. I would just write STC. Okay, basically the short form. Basically, time dot mk time is used for converting time tuple to seconds. Right now, I have my last function which we have here, and that is time dot sleep. Okay, now what's the use of this time dot sleep function? Okay, let me just write here in the bracket, that is seconds. Okay, so this whatever I'm just writing seconds and tuple, so this actually means the value in this function. Okay, the value in this function will be given in this particular form, let's say tuples or seconds, whatever I'm just adding here. Okay, do not take it that I'll be like converting into tuple or converting to seconds. No, the value which will be giving inside this function, it will be the form of a tuple or it will be form of a second. Okay, now basically it will basically timer sleep helps us to, that is basically go to sleep for a while. Okay, what do I just mean from go to sleep for a while? So basically, if you just set out a time, time but sleep, and in bracket you just write out some seconds value. So what it will do actually, it will just like for whatever the thing you are just writing out that sleep function, it will hold on that particular thing for that particular time which you are giving inside the sleep function. Okay, so these are some functions which we have here in this time module, which are basically used, which are basically like frequently used. You can just add on this this word which is basically frequently used. So let me just give you a quick revision of the topics which we have seen, of the functions which we have seen, then I will be showing you the example, right? So, so the first one is time dot clock, and basically what does it gives us? It gives us the current CPU time in seconds. Okay. Other than this, I have time dot time. So time dot time is basically gives you the current time in seconds since epoch, and that time will be in the form of GMT, right? Now, I have time dot local time. Now, whenever it is going to use this local time function, so in the bracket you'll be passing out the parameter, the value which you'll be passing out, that will be in the seconds only, right? So, what does this time dot local time actually do? So, it converts the time to local time and returns us a tuple basically. Okay, it basically returns us a tuple. Other than this, what do I have here? So time dot GMT time. Okay, time dot GMT time. I have time dot GMT time. So in this basically also will be just passing out the seconds, and what does it helps us to do? So it converts the time to GMT, that is basically returns us a tuple. Okay. Now other than that, what do I have here? So that is time dot EST time, and in bracket it is tuple, right? Now basically it creates a string representing that time. Okay. Now, time dot C time, and in bracket it is second, so it creates the string representing the local time. Okay. Now, time dot MK time, so basically in the bracket it is tuple, so it helps us to convert time tuple to second. Okay, convert time tuple to seconds. And we have the very last function, that is time dot sleep, and that is seconds in the bracket. So basically it means go to sleep for a while. Okay, I have already explained that what does this means, that go to sleep for a while. Okay, so these are some frequently used functions which we have in the time module. Now it's the time for seeing that how we just use of this time module and how we can just find out the current time whatever we are just having right now. Okay, so basically what I was just doing is that the very first thing, that when it's not you like need to use our time module, so in that case I just need to import the time module. I do not need to install that basically, because it already comes installed with the IDE whichever you have like installed in your device, right? So I just need to simply import out. So the formula and like way for importing the any library is I will be writing import and then the time. Okay, so I just simply imported my time module, right? Now I'll be taking a variable, let's say that t. T is my variable which I have taken, okay? And I would just write here time dot time and put out the bracket. So this is one of the functions which we have seen above, right? So what was this time dot time was returning to us? So it was returning the current time in GMT in seconds, right? So this is basically, if you just want out to find the current time, that what is the present time which you're having right now. So it's basically you just need to use that time dot time function, okay? Now basically I've just put out a hash here, and I would just even add that what it actually in the what form it will actually return. Basically first of all it will return you the year, then the year in which basically it is right now, okay, year, then it will return you the month, okay, year then month, and then it will return you the day. Other than that it will return you the hour, and then it will return you the minute, then it will return you the second, and then basically it will return you comma, and that is the it will return you the weekday, then it will return you the day, and it will return you DST, right? These are the things which this basically time dot time function actually returns, right? Okay, now I would just write here print, and in the bracket I'm just writing here t, right? So this will basically, let's see that basically what it returns to us. So I just run out my program here. Okay, so just 1 second, just let me quickly, okay, time t is equal to time dot time and then print tb. Okay, so just let's do it here in this way. I would just write here another variable, that is tp is equal to, and that would be time dot, and that would be local time, and in bracket it is t, right? And basically I'll be just printing out the string, that is print, and that is basically time dot local time, and in the bracket it is tp, the variable which I have made previously, right? And now I would just try to run this here. Okay, and integer is required, got type time dot struct underscore time. Okay, so basically it is saying that an integer is being required here. So Okay, so print time dot local time and in the bracket. Okay, let's not run it like this. I would just try to run it once again here. Okay, so I would just write here print, and in the bracket it would be TP, right? And I would just now run it once again here. Fine. So basically now just have a look at how it is giving me the whole things. So it is giving me that the year is 2021. Okay, the month is 6. Month is 6 basically. That means right now whenever I'm just making this video, so in that basically I am having month that is 6, which is June. Okay. So the date is 11. Okay, that's absolutely right. The hour is 18. Yes, it's 6 in the evening. After that, I have 51. Okay, right. It's absolutely right. That it is 6:51. Seconds is 32. Right. Weekday is 4. And this Y day is 162. And DST is 0. Right. So these are the information which you can get through this module, through this time module, which we have actually used here. Right. So I hope that you have got a clear and a fair idea that how you will be able to get out the things, how you will be able to basically find out the present time which you are having. So first of all, you need to use this time dot time, and after that you need to store this t, the variable in which you have used time dot time, into a variable with the use of function that is time dot local time, and at last you just need to print out that variable. Right, so this is how you just use out the print time function, and this is how actually you can just use out all other functions which you have in the time module. Right, so this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.